Hello everyone. This is lecture number 3 of engineering mechanics. The content of this session would be laws of parallelogram, composition of forces, and then we are going to see classification of force and then force systems. Resultant force. It is possible to find a single force which will have the same effect as that of number of forces acting on a body. Such a single force is called as resultant force. Then. It is also called as a single force which is equal to algebraic sum of effects produced by the individual forces. Resultant force of a system of forces. The resultant of a system of force is a single calculated force which is capable of producing the same effect as that of system of forces on the body. It is the vector sum of forces of a system. The example for this is displayed on the screen. You can see on a body there are different types of forces, that is F1, F2, F3 and F4. The resultant of all these forces is represented as R. Composition of forces. What do you mean by composition of force? It is the process of combining a number of forces into a single force such that the net effect produced by the single force is equal to algebraic sum of effects produced by the individual forces. Or it is also called as the technique of finding the resultant of force is called as composition of force. The reduction of a given system of force to a simplest system that will be its equivalent is composition of force. That means we are reducing the number of forces to a single force that is called as resultant, which is equal effect of that of combination of forces over there. Composition of force, again the same thing has been explained here. It is the process of combining a number of forces into a single force such that the net effect produced by the single force is equal to algebraic sum of effects produced by the individual force. This single force is called as resultant force, which produces the same effect on the body as that produced by the individual forces acting together. This sentence is very important, that is produced by the individual forces acting together or acting simultaneously. So this is how the composition of forces has been explained here. So first let us see summation fx. Summation fx is what? Algebraic sum of components of all the forces along the x-axis. And then next one is summation Fy. It is the algebraic sum of components of the forces along the y-axis. You can see from the figure over there displayed on the screen, there is a body here. So for on this body there are four forces which are acting there, that is F1, F2, F3 and then F4 there. So F2 and F4 are, like F2 is the vertical force and then F4 is the horizontal force, and then you can see there are two forces F1 and F3, those are inclined force. In that case what we have to do, we have to resolve the forces into x component and then y component. Force F1 is acting towards right hand side and then force F3 is acting towards the left hand side. We have to always remember in which quadrant the forces are acting, in which direction the forces are acting, because the sign will make difference at the end there. Now we'll find out what are the forces which are acting along the x-axis. You can see there summation fx there, F4 plus F4 and then plus F1 cos theta 1. You can see there is a theta 1 here. The force F1 is making an angle of theta 1 with respect to the horizontal axis. That's why it is plus F1 cos theta 1. Next one is, this will become 0 there. The effect of this will not be there along the x-axis. Next one is F3. So it is written as minus F3 sine theta 2. Why sine theta 2 is written over there? Because theta 2 is making an angle with respect to the vertical axis. That's why it is taken as minus F3 sine theta 2. So this is how the algebraic sum of components of forces along the x-axis is done. Next one is algebraic sum of components of forces along the y-axis. That is summation Fy equal to, you can see there, minus F2, and then the effect of F4 will not be there. So the effect of F1 and F3 will be there. Why? Because those are inclined force. They are resolved into x component and then y component. When we are finding out summation Fi, only the y component comes into picture. The y component of F1 will be minus F1 sine theta 1, and then for F3 it is minus F3 cos theta 2. Okay, this is how the algebraic sum of components of forces along x-axis and y. Next one is sign convention. That is the positive and negative convention of forces used in the resolution of force in the previous figure is that of shown in the following figure over there. That means in the previous slide we were talking about negative, that is minus F1 plus F1 minus F3 plus F3. So same thing I think I've already explained in the previous session over there. I'll just repeat it once again here. You can see here the force which is acting upwards will be taken as positive, and the force which is acting downwards will be taken as negative, and the force which is acting towards the left hand side is taken as negative, and the force which is acting towards the right hand side is taken as positive there. This is the sign convention which we have to follow whenever we want to solve any problem. Next one is the formula to find out the resultant of a given system of forces. The magnitude of the resultant is given by the formula square root of summation fx square plus summation fy square. What is summation fx there? It is, what is summation fx? It is summation of it is the algebraic sum of all the forces which are acting along the x-axis. What is summation Fy? It is summation of, or the algebraic sum of all the forces which are acting along the y-axis. Okay, this we have found out in the previous slide, and I'll repeat it once again. The magnitude of the resultant is calculated using the formula square root of summation fx square plus summation fy square. Now we have to see what is the direction of the resultant, in which direction the resultant is acting. This is very important. Even after finding out the magnitude, the direction is very important, and it is the judging factor of this resultant force. So how to calculate or how to find out the direction of the resultant force is theta is equal to tan inverse of summation Fy divided by summation Fx. This is how the direction of the resultant is found out there. Okay, the first one is magnitude of resultant, that is found out by the formula r equal to square root of summation fx square plus summation fy square, and the next one is direction of resultant, that is theta equal to tan inverse of summation fy divided by summation fx there. Next one is two methods of composition of forces. There are two methods in which we can do the composition of forces. That is, the first one is analytical method and the second one is graphical method. Let us see how analytical method helps us to do the composition of forces, and then graphical method helps us to do the composition of forces over there. First one, that is analytical method of composition of forces. So we'll be using parallelogram law of forces there. So this law is applicable only when there are two forces. Okay, let us see what is parallelogram law of forces. If two forces are acting simultaneously on a particle and away from a particle with the two adjacent sides of the parallelogram representing both the magnitude and direction of force. I'll repeat it once again. Both the magnitude and the direction of forces, the magnitude and direction of resultant can be represented by the diagonal of the parallelogram starting from the common point of the two forces. Okay, I'll repeat it once again in the next slide by explaining with the figure. Okay, so I was telling these are the two forces, that is F1 and F2. There is a common point for these two forces, that is F1 is connected to O and then F2 is also connected to O there. And then you can see O, B, C, A, O. This is the parallelogram. Okay, so you can see the sides of parallelogram are represented by F1 and F2. The diagonal of this parallelogram is taken as R. I'll repeat the law once again. If two forces are acting simultaneously on a particle, okay, so let us take this is a particle at point O, and then there are two forces which are acting simultaneously, that is F1 and one more thing is F2, that is with two adjacent sides of the parallelogram. These are the two adjacent sides of the parallelogram representing what? Both magnitude and then direction. You can see the magnitude of these two forces are F1 and F2. You can see direction of these two forces are also represented here. See the magnitude and direction of the resultant. You can see this is the magnitude of the resultant R, and then direction is also shown over there. The magnitude and the direction of the resultant can be represented by what? The diagonal of the parallelogram. Starting from what point? The common point where F1 and F2 are meeting here. Okay, this is what parallelogram law of forces states. Okay, you can see from the slide over there on the screen, there is a proof given over there. Let me explain this proof. Consider two forces F1 and F2. You can see F1 here and then F2 here acting at a point O as shown in figure. And then alpha is what? Alpha is the angle between two forces, that is force F1 and F2 there. So complete the parallelogram. You can see the parallelogram ACBO. It is called as parallelogram. Drop perpendicular CD to OA. You can see here a perpendicular has been dropped from C point till point D and then extend OA there. So wherever both the points are meeting there, both lines are meeting, we'll take it as point D there. Okay, so next one is what? Let R be the resultant of forces there. So this is R, this is the resultant of forces. And the next one is theta. Theta is the inclination of the resultant force with the line of action of force. You can see here this theta is making an angle between resultant and the line of action of force here. Okay, from the figure we can see that OC square, this is OC square is equal to OD square plus CD square by applying what? Pythagoras theorem to the triangle OCD. So from this triangle OCD, by applying Pythagoras theorem, we can write it as OC square is equal to OD square plus CD square. Okay, so OD is taken as what? OA plus AD. Okay, so let me explain this one. OD. Okay, you can see here OD is from here to here. OD is totally taken as OA plus AD whole square plus CD is written as it is. Okay, and then we can see here OA is taken as F1. Okay, OA is taken as F1 and then OB is taken as F2 there. And then point AD. AD, how it is calculated here is, you can see there AD is equal to F2 cos alpha. Okay, so I'll take this side also as F2. Why? Because this side and this side are parallel to each other. So I'll take this side also as F2 and then I'll apply cos alpha here. Cos alpha is what? adjacent upon hypotenuse. Adjacent is what? AD, hypotenuse is AC. AC I'll take it as F2. So after solving, we'll get AD as what? F2 cos alpha. Similarly, I'll go for what? CD. CD is equals to F2 sin alpha. And then OC, I'll take it as R there. So I'll substitute all these things in the above equation. That is OC square equal to OA plus AD square plus CD square. I'll substitute in this equation. So instead of OC, what I'll take? I'll take as R square. So instead of OA, I'll take it as F1. Instead of AD, I'll take it as F2 cos alpha whole square there. So plus what? CD square. In place of CD, what I'll write? F2 sin alpha whole square there. So after simplifying, we are going to get the answer for R as what? Square root of F1 square plus 2 F1 F2 cos alpha plus F2 square. This is the formula for resultant of the given two forces. Next one is we have to find out the direction of the resultant of force. This is done with the help of same figure. Okay, you can see here in this triangle OCD, tan theta is equal to what? Opposite upon adjacent. Which is the opposite side? CD. Which is the adjacent side? OD. CD, instead of CD, what we can write here? F2 sin alpha. So this we have derived in the previous slide. Instead of CD, what we have written? F2 sin alpha. OD is taken as OA plus AD. OA is taken as F1, AD is taken as F2 cos alpha. So we can simplify and then we can get the answer for theta as what? Tan inverse of F2 sin alpha plus divided by F1 plus F2 cos alpha. This is the magnet direction of resultant force. Okay, in the previous slide what we did, we found out the magnitude of the resultant. In this slide we have found out the direction of the resultant force. Here are some of the examples which we have to remember so that we can reduce our time while solving the problem. Here there are three cases here. Now what is my formula for resultant? I'll write the formula for resultant here. Okay, so R is equal to square root of F1 square plus 2 F1 F2 cos alpha plus F2 square. This is the formula for resultant here. Now in the first condition, you can see this is the first condition, this is the second condition, and this is the third condition. Now in the first condition, we can see that if alpha equal to 90 degree, R equal to what? Square root of F1 square plus F2 square. I'll tell you how we got this equation for R equal to square root of F1 square plus F2 square. So in this equation, that is R equal to square root of F1 square plus 2 F1 F2 cos alpha plus F2 square. Substitute the value of alpha equal to 90 here. So cos 90 equal to what? 0. So this entire term will become 0 there. Okay, that is the middle term will become 0 there. This term will become 0. What is remaining? Square root of F1 square plus F2 square. This is the first condition. Second condition is if alpha equal to 0, the formula for R is equal to F1 plus F2. Okay, let me explain here. If alpha equal to 0, this term will become 1. Okay, that is 2 F1 F2 into 1. This is of the form a square plus b square plus 2ab. You can take it as what? F1 plus F2 whole square. Square root of F1 plus F2 whole square. You are going to get the answer for R as F1 plus F2. This is the second condition. Coming to the third condition, that is if alpha equal to 180 degree. cos of 180 degree is equal to minus 1. This will be like f1 square minus 2 f1 f2 plus f2 square. Again, this equation is of the form f1 minus f2 whole square. So the formula will become r equal to square root of f1 minus f2 whole square. You are going to get the answer for r as f1 minus f2 here. Okay, so this is the first condition here. Okay, so f1 f2 and then this is the parallelogram. Okay, so next one is f1 is acting in this direction, f2 is acting in the opposite direction, that is the angle is 0 here. The next one is, you can see in the first condition f2, the angle between f2 and f1 is 90 degree, and then in the second figure you can see the angle between f1 and f2 is 0. Now in the third figure you can see the angle between f1 and f2 is 150 degree. You have to measure from here to here, that is 180 degree. So alpha is what? It is the angle between the two forces f1 and f2. So this is how the parallelogram law of forces is explained with the help of chain and then hook over there. Okay, the common point is a hook where two chains are linked. That is, you can see along the chain to the left hand side F1 is represented, to the right hand side F2 is represented. How we are going to represent the R value, that is the resultant of these two forces along the diagonal of this parallelogram. Okay, and then the formula for R is square root of f1 square plus 2 f1 f2 cos alpha plus f2 square, and then the formula for direction of this resultant force is given by theta equal to tan inverse of summation fy divided by summation fx. This is about the parallelogram law of forces. Let us do certain numericals on this parallelogram law of forces there. Okay, so the first problem is two forces of magnitude 10 Newton and 8 Newton are acting at a point. If the angle between the two forces is 60 degrees, determine the direction and magnitude of the resultant force. Okay, so let me explain this with the help of figure over there. Okay, this is one force and then this is one more force. Okay, so let me take this as force 10 and this as force 8 Newton then. Okay, this is my 10 Newton and this is my 8 Newton. The angle made by these two forces is what? 60 degrees. Now we have to find out R, that is magnitude and then direction of the resultant we have to find out there. Now with the help of the available equation, that is for resultant and then direction, we can get the answer for R and theta. So R is given by the formula square root of f1 square plus f2 square plus 2 f1 f2 cos alpha. Okay, so my f1 is equals to 8 Newton and f2 is equals to 10 Newton. You can take whichever you want, the first one. Next one is alpha is equals to 60 degree. We'll substitute these three in this equation. Okay, R equal to square root of 8 square plus 10 square plus 2 into 8 into 10 into cos 60 degree. And then if you simplify or calculate this one, you are going to get the value for R as 15.62 Newton. Okay, so this is how the resultant of the given two forces is found out. Okay, you have to always remember to write the unit of the resultant force there. Next thing is we have to find out the direction of the resultant force. That is with the help of the formula theta is equals to F2 sine theta, sorry, it is F2 one second, let me erase this one once again. Theta is equals to F2 sine alpha divided by F1 plus F2 cos alpha. This is the formula to find out the direction of the resultant force. F2 is given by 10 into sine 60 degree divided by F1 is what? 8 plus 10 cos 60 degree. So by substituting this, by solving this, you are going to get the answer for theta as 26.33 degrees. Okay. Coming to the next example, two equal forces are acting at a point with an angle of 60 degrees between them. If the resultant force is equal to 20 root 3, find the magnitude of each force. So let me explain this with the help of figure. There are two forces here. Okay, so this is one force and then this is one more force. The magnitude of each force is same. Okay, that is, I'll take it as F and then F. The angle made by these two forces is 60 degree and the resultant made by these two forces is 20 root 3 here. Okay, so what we have to find out here? We have to find out the magnitude of each force here. Okay, so what we'll do here? So first we'll write the equation for R. R is equals to square root of F1 square plus F2 square plus 2 F1 F2 cos alpha here. Okay, so alpha is equals to 60 degrees and then F1 we can take it as F, F2 also we can take it as F because the magnitude of both the forces is same. Okay, so I'll take it as F itself. So I'll substitute in this given equation here. Okay, so this is my F square plus F square plus 2 into F into cos 60 degree. Okay, once we substitute this one, this will become square root of 2F square plus 2F square cos 60 degrees. We'll substitute the value of R as 220 root 3 here. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll remove this square root to the right hand from right hand side. So what I'll do, I'll just square both the side. That is 20 square into square of root 3. It will become 20 square into 3. So this will become 1200 is equals to 2F square plus cos 60 is 0.5. 0.5 that is 1 by 2, 1 by 2. It will get cancelled. So the remaining is F square. So this side will become 3F square equal to 1200. 200 here. Okay, so I'll just remove this 3 from the right hand side to left hand side. F square is equals to 1200 divided by 3. You are going to get the answer as 400. Okay, F square equal to 400. The value of F will be 20 Newton. So this is the magnitude of force F1. Similarly, this is taken as F2 also. Okay, so I'll take it as F1 is equals to F2. Okay, so this is how the magnitude of each force is found out. If we know the formula for resultant, we can easily find out the answer for F1 and F2, and then we have to read the question very carefully. So it is told in the question that two forces are equal. That means F1 is taken as F and then F2 is also taken as F. This is how the composition of force is explained with the help of parallelogram law of forces. The next topic is force system. What do you mean by force system? It is a group or a set of forces acting simultaneously on a body is called system of forces there. You can see the example which is displayed on the screen. There is a body there, and then this is the body, and then you can see different forces are acting on this body. This is a group or a set of forces acting simultaneously. This is very important. Acting simultaneously on a body is called system of forces. This is a group of forces, that is F1, F2, F3 and F4. These are the set of forces or the group of forces which are acting simultaneously on a body is called as system of forces. Classification of force system. So force system is classified into two main branches, that is coplanar or planar, and the next one is non-coplanar or spatial. Okay, so under coplanar we have three different classification, that is collinear, concurrent and then non-concurrent. Similarly, under collinear we have like forces and then unlike forces. Under non-concurrent we have parallel forces and non-parallel forces. Similarly, under parallel we have like and then unlike forces. Coming to non-coplanar forces, it is divided into coplanar and concurrent and non-concurrent. So under non-concurrent we have parallel and non-parallel. So under parallel we have like and then unlike forces over there. This is the classification of system of forces. This is also very important. We have to remember what is the classification of a force system then. So let us explain one by one. Okay, so in the previous slide I told so many words over there, that is coplanar, non-coplanar, concurrent, non-concurrent, like, unlike, parallel, non-parallel. Okay, let me explain one by one. So the first one is coplanar forces. What is coplanar forces? The forces acting on the same plane are called as coplanar force system there. Okay, suppose let me give an example here. So this is my y plane, this is my x plane. So I'll call it as xy plane here. Okay, so this is my x, this is my y. So xy plane. So the forces are acting on same plane. F1 and then F2. So you can see there both F1 and F2 are acting on the same plane. This is called as coplanar force system. So what do you mean by non-coplanar system there? The forces acting on different plane are called as non-coplanar force system there. Okay, so I'll draw three different axes here. Okay, so let me draw this one as x-axis, this is my y-axis, and then this is my z-axis here. Okay, so this is my force F1 which is between XY plane, and then there is one more force between XZ plane. So such type of forces are called as non-coplanar forces. Force F2 is acting between XZ plane, force F1 is acting between XY plane. Okay, so such type of force we call it as non-coplanar system or non-coplanar. Types of coplanar forces. The first one is collinear forces. What do you mean by collinear force? It is a force system in which all the forces have same line of action here. The example for this collinear force is forces in a row in a tug of war. You can see the figure which is displayed on the screen. These people are playing tug of war game there. Okay, there is a common point here, and then there is a single rope. Okay, all these people are holding a single rope. These set of people are pulling towards right hand side the rope, and then these set of people are pulling towards the left hand side. Okay, and then you can see there all the forces have the same line of action. You can see this is the same line of action. All the forces are acting along the same line of action towards the right hand side, and then towards the left hand side all the forces are acting towards the left in the same line of action. For such type of forces we call it as. Next one is coplanar concurrent forces. What do you mean by coplanar concurrent force? Let me explain one by one each term. Coplanar concurrent force. What do you mean by coplanar? Coplanar is the set of forces which are acting in the same plane. Okay. Next one is concurrent. What do you mean by concurrent? All the forces lie in the same plane and line of action meet at a single point. Coplanar means all forces lie in the same plane. Concurrent means line of action of all these forces meet at a point. Okay, so example for this would be forces acting in a spoke of a bicycle here. Okay, so you can see, let us consider this is X plane, this is Y plane. Okay, so this bicycle is situated in XY plane. Okay, so all the forces in this bicycle wheel is acting on the same plane, that is between X and Y there. Okay, this is called as coplanar system of forces. Next one is concurrent forces. You can see there all the spokes are meeting at a same point. So that's why it is called as concurrent. So let me go to this example here. Okay, there are different forces, that is F1, F2, F3 and forces. F4 forces are acting in the same plane, and then you can see the line of action of all these forces are meeting at a single point. If they meet at a single point, it is called as concurrent forces. All the forces are acting in the same plane, that's why it is called as coplanar concurrent forces. Next one is coplanar non-concurrent forces. It is a force system in which all the forces are lying in the same plane, but line of action do not meet at a single point. So the first sentence says what all the forces are lying in the same plane, means it is coplanar. And the second one says line of action do not meet at a single point. That is called as non-concurrent. If we add together, it will become coplanar non-concurrent force system. Then example for such type of force system is forces on a ladder and reaction from floor and wall, where a ladder rests on a floor and leans against a wall there. Okay, so you can see the example which is displayed on the screen for coplanar non-concurrent force. Let us take, this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis. So these forces are acting along what plane? XY plane there. That is called as coplanar. And the next one is non-concurrent. These two forces are not meeting at a single point. That's why it is called as non-concurrent forces. All the forces are acting along the same plane, and then their line of action is not meeting at a single point. For such type of forces, we call it as coplanar non-concurrent forces. This is the example for the ladder here. Okay, you can see here the ladder is leaning on the wall and then it is resting on the floor there. Okay, when it is resting on the floor, there is a reaction from the floor that is represented as N2 there. And then when it is leaning on the wall, the reaction force will come from the wall that is represented as N2. Okay, and then you can see there, if the ladder moves in this direction, the friction will be in the opposite direction that is represented as F. These are the forces which are acting on the ladder. One more force is the weight of this human being. It is acting downwards. All the forces are acting in a single plane, but the point or the line of action of all these forces do not meet at a single point. For such type of force system, we call it as coplanar non-concurrent force system. This is the example there. And the next one is coplanar parallel forces. What do you mean by coplanar? It is the force system in which all the forces lie in the same plane. And then what do you mean by parallel forces? These forces are parallel to each other. That is, line of action of these forces are parallel to each other. The example is shown here. The forces are load and the support reaction in case of beam, self-weight of person sitting in a bench. Okay, the forces are loads and the support reaction in case of beam. Let us say this as beam, green color one as a beam there, beam AB. You can see there the weight of this vehicle, the weight of this vehicle. Okay, so it is coming downwards and then the weight of the beam is also acting downwards. Here you can see the weight, that is this force and this force are parallel to each other and then they are in the same plane. That's why it is called as coplanar. Why? Because they are acting in the same plane. Next one is parallel, because these three forces are parallel to each other. For such type of system, we call it as coplanar parallel forces. Under this coplanar parallel forces, we have two classification. One is like parallel force and the second one is unlike parallel forces. What do you mean by like parallel forces? In like parallel forces system, all the forces act parallel to one another. Okay, you can see all the forces are parallel to one another and are in same direction. You can see the direction of all these forces are same. That's why it is called as like parallel forces. When it comes to unlike parallel forces, you can see there all the forces are parallel to each other, but the direction is not in the same direction, or the line of action is in opposite direction. You can see F1 is in this direction, F2 is downward direction. Again, F3 is in upward direction, F4 is in downward direction. For such type of system, we call it as coplanar parallel force system. These are some of the examples for coplanar parallel force system. You can see there is a reaction force here and then there is one force coming in this direction. There is one more force which is coming in this direction. So these forces are parallel to each other and then they are acting on the same plane. That's why it is called as coplanar parallel force system. The next one is non-coplanar concurrent force system. What do you mean by non-coplanar concurrent forces? It is a force system in which all the forces lie in the different planes and still have a common point of concurrency. You can see here, this is a cube, perfect example for a three-dimensional structure over there. Okay, let me draw the axis here. This is my x-axis, this is my y-axis, this is my z-axis, and then you can see there all these forces are not acting on the same plane, they are acting along the different plane. That's why it is called as non-coplanar, but these forces are meeting at a single point. That's why it is called as concurrent forces. Such an example is called as non-coplanar concurrent forces. One more example is weighing balance. Okay, you can see there is a plate over there on which you can place some materials there, and then these three ropes are tied to this plate over there, and then there is a single point of contact here, that is at point O, and these three ropes are not acting along the same plane. That's why it is called as non-coplanar, but they are meeting at a single point. It is called as concurrent, non-coplanar concurrent forces. And the next example is, or the next one is non-coplanar non-concurrent forces. It is a force system in which all the forces lie in different plane, and also they do not meet at a single point. Okay, I'll repeat it once again. It is a system of forces in which all the forces lie in different plane. That means whether it is in xy plane or yz plane or xz plane. Okay, these forces are not in the single plane and also do not meet at a single point. So for such type of force system, we call it as non-coplanar, non-concurrent forces. The example for such type of force system is given over there. That is forces acting on a moving bus, and then submarine underwater, and then aeroplane flying in the sky, and then building frame. Okay, two such examples are displayed on the screen there. Okay, to the left hand side, the first one you can see here. When the body is moving in the front direction, there will be friction in the opposite direction. You can see this is the friction. The person is pushing the vehicle in the right direction, and the friction is observed in the left direction. This is one force, and then there is one more force, that is the weight of the vehicle, which is acting downwards. For this weight, there is an equal and opposite reaction, that is F ground, and then force F is towards the right side. And then you can see here all these forces are not acting on the same plane, and then these are not connected to a single point. So for such type of example, we call it as non-coplanar non-concurrent forces. And one more example is Q. Okay, there are different forces are acting along the different planes, and then their point of contact is not meeting at a single point. For such type of system, we call it as non-coplanar non-concurrent force systems. And one more example is aeroplane there. Okay, so these forces are not acting on the same plane, and then they are not meeting at a single point over there. Coming to the next one, that is non-coplanar parallel forces. What do you mean by non-coplanar? Forces are not acting along the same plane. Next one is parallel. Forces are parallel to each other. Okay, it is a force system in which all the forces are lying in different planes and still have parallel line of action. Okay, you can see that F1, F2 are acting in this plane, but F3 and F2 are acting in this plane. F1, F2, F3, F4, they are not acting on the single plane. Okay, that's why it is called as non-coplanar. But F1, F2 are parallel to each other, F3, F4 are parallel to each other. So for such type of force system, we call it as non-coplanar parallel force system. So this is the brief explanation of system of forces. You can see there to the left hand side, that is the first column represents force system, the second column represents the characteristics, and the third column represents the example for such type of force system. Okay, so let me brief once again. What do you mean by collinear forces? The line of action of all the forces act along the same line. Okay, so example is forces on a rope in a tug of war. Next one is coplanar parallel forces. All forces are parallel to each other and lie in a single plane. And then you can see the example for that force system. And the next one is coplanar like parallel forces. All forces are parallel to each other and they lie in a single plane, and the direction of all these forces are same. Okay, so next one is coplanar concurrent forces. All forces are acting in the same plane and their line of action are meeting at a same point. Example is forces on a rod resting against the wall over there. Next one is coplanar non-concurrent forces. All forces do not meet at a point but lie in a single plane. Next one is non-coplanar parallel forces. All forces are parallel to each other but not in a single plane or a same plane. Non-coplanar concurrent forces. All forces are not lying in the same plane but their line of action passes through the same point. The next one is non-coplanar non-concurrent forces. Non-coplanar means the forces are not acting on the same plane, and then the line of action of all these forces are not meeting at a same point. The example is forces acting on a moving bus there. Okay, these are some of the examples for different types of force systems. Let us find out the resultant of concurrent force system. That is when the number of forces are more than 2 there. Okay, earlier we discussed parallelogram law there. That was valid only if the number of forces are 2. If the number of forces are more than 2, we cannot apply parallelogram law there. Now we can find out the resultant if the number of forces are more than 2 there. Okay, so let us see the procedure to find out the resultant and the direction of the resultant. Okay, so what is the first step? Resolve all the forces along x and y axis. That is, find out the x and y component of the given set of forces. That is the first step. Next one, calculate the algebraic sum of all the forces acting along the x direction and along the y direction. That is, we have to find out summation fx and then we have to find out summation fy there. Okay, once we find out summation fy and fx, we can find out the resultant with the help of the formula square root of summation fx square. It is whole square there, just make correction over there, this is square, plus summation fy whole square. This is the formula to find out the magnitude of resultant. I'll repeat it once again. R is equal to square root of summation fx square plus summation fy square. Then we have to find out the direction of resultant using the formula alpha equal to tan inverse of summation fy divided by summation fx. Now the position of resultant. Okay, so this we have already discussed in the previous examples also. So when will be fx is positive, when will be that fy will be negative, fy will be positive, this we have already discussed. Let me explain it once again there. This is my first quadrant, this is my second quadrant, this is my third quadrant, and then this is my fourth quadrant over there. Okay, so summation fx is positive means summation fy is also positive means the resultant is lying in first quadrant. Okay, next one is if summation fx is negative, summation fy is positive, then the resultant is lying in second quadrant. Next one is if summation fx is negative, summation fy is also negative, then we can say that resultant is lying in third quadrant. The last one is if summation fx is positive and summation fy is negative, then we can say that resultant is lying in fourth quadrant there. This is how we can identify where exactly the resultant is lying with the help of summation fx and summation fy value there. Okay, so these are some of the points which we have to remember there. Okay, let us see these three conditions. The first condition is if resultant is horizontal, then summation fx equal to r and summation fy equal to 0 there. Let me write the equation for r. R is equal to square root of summation fx square plus summation fy square. This is the equation for r here. Okay, if resultant is horizontal. Okay, so if resultant is horizontal, so this fy will become summation fy will become 0 there. Okay, so the remaining term will become what? R is equal to square root of summation fx whole square. This square and square root will get cancelled and the remaining one is summation fx, r equal to fx. Similarly, if the resultant is acting along vertical direction, if r is along this direction, then my summation fy is equals to r. Why? Because this term will become 0 there. Okay, when this becomes 0, square root of summation fy square will remain there. Okay, and then this square root and then square will get cancelled, so we'll get the answer as r equal to summation fy there. Okay, and the last one is if resultant is 0, then fy is equal to 0 and then summation fx is also equal to 0. If r is equal to 0, summation fx equal to 0 and then summation fy is equal to 0 then. Okay, so we have to remember these three conditions. If resultant is horizontal, then r equal to summation fx there. Okay, this summation fy will become 0 there. Now, if r is up along the vertical, the value of r would be summation fy there. Then value of summation fx will become 0 there. Next, the third one is if resultant is 0, then summation fy equal to 0 and then summation fx is equal to 0. These are the three conditions we can remember while solving the problem so that we can reduce the time when we are solving the.
Thank you.